This morning's newspaper. Holmes, have you read this article about you?
No, Watson, not yet, and I won't have time to.
Read it before you leave. It's outrageous.
If you insist.
Or you could just read it to me. Right. I got a thing. Seem to share my love of all that is bizarre. You drug with the Simone necklace. Well done. Make a highly sufficient criminal. Right. I was expecting you to have, you know, read me out. Sherlock Holmes, the home of the That's not how you spell Marquis. Of Conyngham. The investigation is a fiasco. Yesterday, the celebrated detective Sherlock Holmes was invited to the manor of the Marquess of Conyngham to supply his conclusions following the investigation to the disappearance of the Priceless Simone necklace. It should be recalled that the lady called in the detective after the police appeared flummoxed in the face of the astonishing circumstances surrounding the theft. Indeed, the valuable piece of jewellery disappeared while the door to the room in which it was displayed was locked. I was thinking, until we got the little agility thing, I was thinking maybe he had panicked, rang the bell, hidden behind the statue, but he was dressed like a servant, so he just kind of mingled with everyone else. The alarm was raised by the servants, alerted by the room service bell ringing out during the night. When the Marquis, there we go, how do you spell it differently in one document? The only person in possession of the key opened the door. Everyone rushed in to extinguish a fire that had started before it was noticed the necklace had mysteriously vanished. The most astonishing factor is that no thief was found within the room and all the exits were closed. As usual, Mr. Holmes resolved the case with the twinkling of an eye, and the jewel was recovered. I will not waste my time on the various explanations as to the disappearance, because I prefer to draw your attention, dear readers, to the less surprising development in the case. Following the departure of Sherlock Holmes, who placed the necklace in the safe himself, the Marquis noticed the jewel was nothing but a poor copy of the original. Let it not be forgotten that the Simone necklace, although plain and without ornament, is unique because of the rarity of its pearls. Pearls which are found only in a small part of the lagoon of the archipelago of the same name, and to which scientists attribute the exceptional quality to the strong density of crystal of aragonite that they are made of. Right. So he didn't look at it, and we're being... The priceless necklace brought here at the beginning of the century by Lord Fenton Arwick, the Marquis's grandfather, and it... Why do you... Grandfather and an eminent explorer should have been part of her daughter's dowry for her marriage to the Duke. Oh! Marchionesses. I don't think that... I think Marchioness is the feminine rather than Marquess. So I'm not going to place a simple... Should we not, in all open-mindedness, ask ourselves if the necklace was not simply in deliberate exchange for a fake by Mr. Holmes himself? What? You know, after everything I've done. Well, Holmes has done. I'm aware, dear readers, that the brutality of this question, without any preconceptions, may certainly shock some of you. But the facts are there, and our thoughts and judgments should not be confused with the regard which we all share for the famous detective. And yet, there's such a thing as good character in... If you've not... Well, it's admittedly in law, it's mainly if you've been accused of a crime before, but... It is not the first time the Globe Explorer has expressed its reservations as to Sherlock Holmes' methods. Do not forget our counter-investigation to the escape of Arsène Lupin, the Frenchman who took malign pleasure in tarnishing the image of a royal family and who, by lucky chance, managed to elude capture by Mr. Holmes. At the time, we did not hesitate to consider a tacit complicity on the part of the latter. For those who are familiar with Mr. Holmes, it is quite apparent that his character traits show more of the opportunist and brilliant usurper than of an altruistic defender of the law. I would draw the attention of readers to the suggestion that the description of this gentleman provided by his friend, Dr. John Watson, through his stories is a long way from the truth. Indeed, his behaviour is... Here's the problem, though. In this world, they are not stories. You can legitimately go and talk to these people. I mean, with some exceptions, where Watson doesn't publish for personal reasons. Indeed, his behaviour is derisive, contemptuous, haughty, and offensive towards the police. Not all of them. And in particular towards Inspector Baines, replacing Inspector Lestrade, who he does respect, who is currently convalescent, and an habitual abuser of narcotics such as heroin and cocaine. This is why, dear readers, it is important to disregard Sherlock Holmes' good reputation, no it isn't, in order to form an objective opinion, for which you'll need his reputation, and to ask the pertinent questions. Was the necklace that Holmes found already a fake? If that was the case, why did he not mention it? Well, he did ask if you wanted to check if it's authentic, and why should he insist on placing it back within the safe himself? I don't think we did. I think that was the Marquis. Immediately, the Marquis is getting a very bad thing. Has the detective some unsavoury interest in this affair, or is it a simple case of deceit in order to steal the extraordinary Samoan necklace? It is up to you, dear readers, to form your own opinions, but you can count upon your humble servant to continue revealing to the public the doubtful methods and motivations of one who in the future I shall not hesitate to call Sherlock Holmes the usurper. What is Sherlock Holmes usurping? Eh, mate? To be continued. Oh, Farley. Right. Oh, there's another page. Okay, the ancestry of Prince Woodville recognised. The Lords Committee, set up in order to verify Prince Woodville's legitimacy, made its conclusions public last night. Without surprise, the prince's title was confirmed. As rumours suggested, in return of an unfavourable opinion by the committee, the prince would have abandoned any claim to the inheritance of the present royal family, as well as any political activity. Who is this man? Who is he? The young man, now aged 28, read history and law at Oxford, with a diploma in philosophy. He spent most of his childhood in France. He cannot be trusted as a member of the royal family. I mean, to say that, the Plantagenets were basically French. Richard I was French. He saw himself as French. Henry V technically should have become King of France, and since between him and George III, King of France was part of the litany of titles, where he acquired a considerable knowledge of the culinary arts. For those who might think this is a handicap when integrating into British high society, it is. Let me remind you that he's also outstanding on the polo field. That'll win everyone over. And plays the bagpipes quite beautifully. Right, well, we know that's a lie. Finally, we should... How did he learn that in France? Really? What is the older line still going on? Finally, we should add that lately he has become actively involved in charity work and aiding the poor. Well, he's going to either die or be a bad guy.
Prince Woodville, French culinary expert and bagpipe player, might be our next king. That's not so shocking, my dear fellow.
You know exactly to which article I'm referring, Holmes. How can Farley dare to tarnish your reputation like that?
You know, Watson, that wherever glory walks, jealousy is bound to follow. As for the forgery of the necklace, I suspect that we shall soon be enlightened in this regard. Come in, Inspector Baines, the door's open.
Ah, Mr. Holmes. How did you know I was here?
You are one of our rare visitors who avoids the second-to-last step of the stairs, which creaks dreadfully. And if I add the clinking of the handcuffs at your belt, to what do we owe the pleasure of your visit, Inspector?
Have you read that rag?
I have a dialogue. Oh, no, not one of these. No. The necklace. We're not going to call it slander because, quite frankly, he knows we're going to say that kind of stuff. So, necklace.
Inspector, I assume that you have the fake necklace with you. It's why you're here. Your superiors would like me to examine it.
Indeed. They would like you to confirm or deny putting this fake in the box.
Can't that wait? I must go to the house of Lord Peregrine Maitland, the Bishop of Knightsbridge.
I don't think bishops are lords. They're bishops. And I don't think there's a bishop in Knightsbridge. Catholics have a Bishop of Westminster, I think. And I think Anglicans have Bishop of London. Knightsbridge, presumably, is in London. Could be a suffragan bishop. I doubt a lord would have a suffragan position, although I could be incorrect. Although I suppose... Why not just make him a vicar? Slander.
Inspector, can you explain this slander? Has the necklace of the Samoas really been replaced by a fake?
I don't know how the reporter got hold of the information, but it's true. About the necklace, of course. I wouldn't permit myself to question the integrity and honesty of Mr. Holmes.
The necklace is a forgery? Impossible! I saw the Marquis authenticated before my very eyes, before Holmes returned it to its place.
Mr. Holmes, the Marquis believes Osmond Farley's theory. I shouldn't be surprised if the reporter isn't behind all this slander about you. He's a freelancer, well known for his explosive and subjective articles. In any case, the Marquis assures us that you were the last person to have the necklace in your hands.
Let's return to the Marquis's house, Holmes. I'm sure that we'll have no trouble in taking apart this theory.
It is unnecessary. Such allegations collapse on their own, like one of Mrs. Hudson's soufflés. Let us leave the police to solve this problem and turn our attention to the matters in hand.
Perhaps you are right, Holmes.
Right. The Marchioness.
And the Marchioness?
She is beside herself. Without the necklace, her marriage is compromised. It is the principal item of the young woman's dowry.
What a lovely marriage.
Okay, so I assume then that the Marchioness is basically kind of... That makes no sense. So she's the... So a Marchioness is the daughter of a Marquis. So that would mean then that the Marquess would be the... like, Duchess. That makes sense, actually, if it's double S. Ugh. It's one of those weird things where it's like, well, my brain just goes, I should really try and learn some of these things to do with titles. I mean, you've got, like, Viscounts, Barons, Baronesses, Dukes, Duchesses, Marquises, Marquesses, Marchionesses. I wonder what the son would be. A terrible newspaper that no one should read. But that's kind of irrelevant. Examine.
Holmes, forgive me for insisting, but don't you want to examine the fake jewellery?
Watson, I have an appointment, and it's out of the question that I arrive late.
It will only take you a couple of minutes. You really must quell the suspicions put forward in this appalling article. If you will allow me, Inspector?
Be my guest.
Very well.
Right. Oh, I thought we were going to have a cup of tea. I know if it's authentic or not. Well...
This pearl is a different color. These 3 pearls are of poor quality.
Assume there'd be one which is a bit wonky, like the wrong size. Ah, there we are.
This pearl is too small. It is not in its place here. Too many defects. This necklace is a fake. This is nothing but a vulgar copy, and at a glance it would appear that the forger has intended for it to be seen as such.
How could we have been fooled by such a blatant imitation? I don't understand.
Yes, how is it possible? Holmes, do you have a theory about this?
It wasn't the one we put in
I
the
have
box.
absolutely no idea. You insisted that I examine the necklace, and I have done so. Now it is important that I keep my appointment. I'm sure, Inspector, that you will throw some light on this affair.
Holmes.
You may accompany me, Watson, if you care to do so.
Goodbye, gentlemen. I'll keep you informed as to my inquiries.
Goodbye, Inspector. You mentioned a bishop, didn't you? Are we going to his home?
Yes, the Bishop of Knightsbridge. I put his address on our map of London on my desk. Would you get it for me, please?
All right, Holmes.
Well,
The work table, where Holmes analyzes things.
things generally. Ah, over here. I think I'll stick with it in this mode.
I have found your map.
Quite like it. That's the Diocese of Knightsbridge. It's not a diocese. It's almost... I don't think it's a diocese. I'm fairly sure there isn't. I should look this up. I should know this kind of stuff. Actually, I shouldn't. Well, with not being in the south. But I know that there's... I think Westminster's might be a diocese. And London's a diocese. But the thing is, I think actually London might sprawl over everywhere. Because some of these... like, a lot of these dioceses are attached to counties. So this could just be one block. All to do with stuff. We'll just go. We'll just go.
The police? Already? How did you know?
May we see the Bishop of Knightsbridge?
Yes. Yes, of course. But come in.
3 men wearing hats indoors.
What has happened, Reverend?
The horror. The horror.
I don't know. It was last night, I think. I only just arrived, and I have made this macabre discovery. My God. How horrible. I haven't called anyone. How did you know that?
Holmes, look!
The Bishop, appallingly mutilated.
How dreadful.
Mutilated. And killed. He was such a good man. How could anyone be so brutal? Look at him. He is barely recognizable now. How could any of God's children be responsible for that?
They were evidently unworthy children, Reverend. Now do please try to calm yourself and focus, because we will need your assistance. Do you have any idea as to the motive behind this?
I haven't had time to do an inventory, but nothing appears to have been stolen. And anyway, His Excellency didn't own anything of great value. I don't know what else I can tell you.
Note this down, please, Doctor.
Doctor? But you aren't the police?
No, Reverend. I am Sherlock Holmes, and this is Dr. Watson. We are here at the request of the Bishop.
In that case, I must ask you to leave, and not to touch anything. I must get in touch with the authorities without further delay.
Reverend, when the inspectors of Scotland Yard find themselves at a dead end, which they quite often do, I assure you, then they turn to me for help. If you will allow us to continue our investigation, then you shall have the answers to all of your questions.
Out of the question! I don't even know you! I'm going to call the police, whether you like it or not.
It would be better for everyone, Reverend, if you kept your temper. Watson, are you taking notes? This affair promises to be a complex one, therefore we must not overlook the slightest detail.
Yes, Holmes, I am keeping a meticulous set of notes. I have created a very clever deduction board. One thing we can be sure of at the moment is that this crime was not for gain. The Reverend has informed us that nothing valuable was stolen, and indeed, it would seem that the Bishop had nothing of any worth to take.
Very good, Watson. Do continue.
Okay, 3 problems with that. 1, clearly, whoever that was, I would assume the Bishop of Knightsbridge. We'd have a cathedral. I think bishops have to have a cathedral. That would probably make him the dean of the cathedral. So he's just turned up, found the bishop's died, panicked and thought, I need to call someone. Holmes turns up. 2, how does he not know who Sherlock Holmes is? 3, as he was invited and had an appointment set by the bishop himself, how does this guy not know who Holmes is? Ugh. Didn't own anything valuable in his safe. Okay. Quit. He's still wearing a hat. He's still wearing a hat. The monster. The monster.